Morning, everybody. This is Dana B. with Charlie Markert, and here we are again from the Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries with our special series this year on the Liberty Man and our 250th anniversary. I want to remind people that this Liberty Man series is actually this is recording or podcast number 10. There are 9 other historical podcasts that go with our great friend, Larry Johnson. We have been so blessed to have Larry give us the insight, the biblical wisdom, the historical wisdom, the constitutional wisdom, and stories that actually go with all of what we're doing. And our plan here is to make sure in our 250th anniversary that we're able to bring that patriotism and love of country and understanding of what it took to get to this point in our history, in our 250th anniversary, because of the great men and women who have served our wonderful nation. And we want to, first of all, Charlie and I want to thank Larry Johnson, the Liberty Man, for going through and putting so much of this together. We want you to take it out to schools, and I'm going to show you really quick what we have here. Welcome to Mountain Patriots Educational Ministry. Our website is mtnpats.com. That's mountainpats.com. This is our homepage. You're going to find our wonderful American flag. We always say it's in the book. We have a prep book by our good friend Rick Choi, Samuel Kreider, on being prepared for what's happening. And I'm sure a lot of the people that were back in 250 years ago could have used this book on the trail. I'm telling you, it is that good. But in the book also means it's in the Bible. We follow biblical principles just like the Constitution, and make sure you read your Bible. But here's the places you can find all of Larry's content, all of the content that we're putting together for Mountain Patriots. It's right here on Rumble and YouTube. But I also want to show you, here's our mission. There's a way to support this. This takes an awful lot of effort and energy. Buy us a coffee, throw a couple dollars in here, help us keep this going, because it's your children that we want to make sure that this reaches. And at the bottom here, we have a lot of our videos, what's going on, but I want to take you to the bottom because this is really important. We have Mountain Patriots gear, and this is our 250th anniversary. You're going to see fantastic things in here. We want you to make sure that you're carrying the Frederick County, Shenandoah Valley, American spirit here. And as you can see, you see Larry down here in our corner here, but take a look at this shirt. This is America's 250th anniversary, 1776 to 2026. And this is our rendition done by my beautiful wife, Barbara, Batgirl. This is the Liberty Man, 250th anniversary. Make sure you get this limited time edition of this shirt so that we can take that part of that money and do what we want to do with statues and memorials all over the place so that we never forget our American history. So make sure you go on and order one of these shirts from for Larry. And lastly, I want to take you here to the top, and it says podcast sign up. There's a spot here to sign up for 250th anniversary. If you like Larry, we're doing a whole series on Larry, but we want to also make sure that we find other great patriots that we can talk about. So Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries is making America patriotic again. Here's the opportunity for you or your child or your mom or your dad or your business owner to come on here and portray a historical figure. You do not have to get dressed up. You can talk to us about what person in history. We don't care whether it's Jackie Robinson or Peter Muhlenberg, who we're going to get an opportunity to get a chance to talk to as well. But there's a place here to sign up for our 250th anniversary. Let us know which one of these characters and people, these great patriots that you'd like to be and you would love our children into prosperity to get an opportunity to know, to love, to carry on, because losing our history is only one generation away. And you know what we're going through right now with communism and Islamism and all these isms. We need to remember our roots. And we are the greatest country, and we live in the Republic of the United States of America. And as Benjamin Franklin would say, we have a republic, ma'am, if we can keep it. This is episode 10. And we've got some really neat stuff to talk to you today about Route 11. So I'm going to turn this over to my great friend and partner, Charlie Markert, who's not only part of the Liberty Man and the historical podcast, but he's also part of the 3%, where we report on things that the mainstream media won't tell you. So, Larry, first of all, thank you, and God bless you for being here today and taking the time to do all of this. It's been fantastic. What a journey. And I'm going to turn it over to my great friend and brother, Charlie. Charlie, it's all yours, my brother. I love you, man.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you, Larry, for continuing this series with us. It's an honor to do this with you. And today we're going to take a little journey down Route 11. As it turns out, it was a big factor in the birth and growth of our country. And Route 11 basically goes down through Shenandoah Valley all the way from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, all the way to Georgia. So there's a part of it today that we're going to look at. And without further ado, Larry, why don't you take us into this, and I'll bring up some. First, we'll go through some slides and kind of establish the who, where, when. And then after that, Larry's going to share with us some stories, some facts about living along the road, using the road, some of the things that you won't find in the textbooks. In fact, you probably won't find anything about Route 11 in the textbooks. So
we live right here.
Yeah. So with that, I'll pull up the first slide, and we can get started.
Okay.
Let's see.
Why don't we, could I suggest this? Could we
Yes.
run through the slides and become acquainted with where we're going with the presentation?
Charlie, I have them.
Sure.
I have them, Charlie.
And I promise I won't do a speech on each slide until we get started.
Okay,
And,
then just give us a sentence or two, or however much information you want to give us on the slides.
Right.
And then we'll launch into the stories.
Yeah. Well, okay. This
As I mentioned to Larry earlier, what this is a peek through the window of time, because there's so many stories along Route 11 that we couldn't do them justice. We're not trying to do them all. We're just trying to open the shades and look at what we can see in the time we have together here. So with that,
as long as Larry tells us where to get the potato chips, we're good.
Right.
There you go, Larry. Here's the road. Is that the slide you need, my friend?
Well, I beg your pardon?
Is that the slide we start with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good. We'll probably come back to this, but I thought maybe if we could do an overview, and the slides give us a quick overview. We won't talk. This will not be the meat of our presentation today. But if we should become distracted and head off in another direction, that the viewer this morning, after seeing the slides, the visuals here, you can. Dear viewer, you can take your own journey, because there are so many stories. The story of the Philadelphia road, the Great Philadelphia Road that comes through our valley. That is not the whole story. We'll come back to that in just a moment, but to look at that slide that we had up there, go back to the map for a second, is that this map shows in a very simplistic way where the Philadelphia Road ran. And there's a reason for it, and and I hope I don't get lost in the program and not come back to that, but there's so much here, especially for those of us that live on or near this or in the Shenandoah Valley. So as Charlie said, it begins in Philadelphia, goes all the way down into Georgia.
Mhm.
And there would be stories all along the way, but we're just going to focus on the stories here in Virginia and very near to Winchester and Strasburg on down to Harrisonburg. Okay,
Excellent.
just bring up another slide. It's unimportant which one it is, this one, because, okay, now if I get into talking about the Conestoga wagon, this
Oh yeah.
could be a 4-hour program on
Right.
that wagon alone. But this is the wagon that was developed along to take our ancestors down the valley, but before we had roads or a path large enough for a Conestoga wagon, we walked.
Right.
And Route 11 was maybe 3 feet wide.
Wow,
You can
trail.
imagine that today. Okay, so that's the Conestoga wagon. It was 26 feet long. It was 11 feet high, and it could carry 5 tons of goods, and it was waterproof, so it would float across deep water. Next slide.
Yeah,
Here's
I noticed that there's horses, not oxen. Typically
right.
they were oxen, right?
Well, you pulled it with what you had and what you could acquire.
Well, there you go. That's true.
And oxen was desirable because of their sure-footedness, their strength, their obedience, and the trainability, which is unusual that you would have a huge animal that was as docile and as trainable. And I don't know whether we had more oxen or horses, but this is the Conestoga wagon. They came in different sizes, by the way. They weren't all 26 feet long. There were smaller ones, and you see something I point out here, so I won't forget it later. Do you see the person sitting there or
Yes.
leaning against the wagon?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was the lazy board. It was the lazy man's board. Is what they had a board that you could slide underneath the wagon or slide it out. And as the animals pulled the wagon, the driver could sit on the board and and ride along behind. And then of course you see a rider up on one of the horses here, this was very common. You might want to put one of your children up on the horse, and that they could be very, very useful in steering the animals. And something's unique. I want to point this out because I'll get involved in the program and I forget stuff. There's so much to present, and I'm not very organized many times. But you see the young person there sitting on see, there are 2 teams.
Mm-hmm.
There is the team on the left and the team on the right. And then the drover is sitting on the left. But this is how and of course the lead horse or the lead oxen would be the first animal at the head of the animals on the left. So now, you got any idea? Okay, Charlie.
Yep.
You're
This
one of the smartest men. No, all due respect, Dana. Charlie's one of the smartest guys I know.
He is one of the smartest people we know.
Why do you think that we drive our cars on the left-hand side of the road?
You mean the right-hand side? Well,
I mean the right-hand side. Yeah, right.
Because the driver of the team was on the left, like our steering wheel is on the left.
You're exactly right. So
That's what I would think.
Each time we drive down a road, we are living history. We're living
on the left side to watch the line.
Yep. So you were able to pass someone, but usually the road, the Great Mountain, the Valley Road was not hardly wide enough for 2 vehicles or 2 wagons to pass each other, and we want to, when you're looking at that, the wagon came along well after the settlers began to use the road to go south. It started out as an Indian trail, and that's all it was.
Right.
Probably, I've seen some writings on that when people went down that it was very, very narrow, and it was maybe 2 feet to 3 feet wide. It was a path. It was a
Right.
path. That's all it was. There was no bringing wagons down it. If you had a horse, good. Or if you were riding a cow or an oxen, but that was likely unusual, perhaps a horse, or mostly walking. So the settlement of the Great Road started probably in earnest about 1740, and bring me back to that if I don't get back to it. But okay, next slide.
That would be about the time of George Whitefield, wouldn't it?
Exactly. And I might add that he never came. He may have come down this path, but the path that he used most often was the King's Road that went down the coastal area.
Okay.
That left Philadelphia and went south, and as a matter of fact, I have traveled that road, and I was raised in North Carolina, not very far from the King's Road, and it goes down all through the eastern part of Virginia, the eastern part of North Carolina, the eastern part of South Carolina, and so it was highly unlikely that that road was used by our evangelists that we know and love. And of course, I do understand, and I mean, I have read and I know that the Methodists, they did use the Great Road. They did, and but George Whitefield usually was on the other road to the east of us. Okay, notice
Let
this.
me ask you a question, Larry, because you have Route 11, and then when I was growing up in Baltimore, we were off of Route 7, which was also called Philadelphia Road, and that went pretty far as well. Would that be would that be like the King's Highway? Do you know?
Are you talking about going east and west, or
going north and south with Philadelphia Road? It was called Philadelphia Road, and it was Route 7. So we had Route 7, and then we also had Route 11.
Well, when you say Route 7, I think of Route 7 here in Virginia that starts in Alexandria and runs to the mountains.
That's different.
That was an
different.
Indian.
I was just curious. Because it's called Philadelphia Road where I was growing
I'm not
up.
an expert on these trails, but it was Route 7 started out as an Indian trail. The Indians came here for the buffalo. And I'm getting sidetracked now, but being I've said it, I'll say it. I'll go ahead with it. But one reason that Loudoun County had so few trees, and it was so easier for settlers to set up plantations in Loudoun County, was the fact that it was level, and the Indians would burn away all the vegetation and let the grass grow. So the buffalo would migrate here at certain times, and they would be able to, to harvest the meat, the buffalo meat. So this is a sidetrack for us here, but the 7 runs, starts in Alexandria and goes all the way to the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so that was
let's talk about what this map of Frederick County in 1758 is. Well, what's the significance of this particular map?
Well, the significance of this is to show you what was Frederick County in 1758, and it was
included a lot of counties.
It included a lot of counties, and they separated out. And some of them regretted it. Page County, for example, separated, and they'd been separate for a while, and they begged to come back. And Frederick County wouldn't have them. so that's a little side trip there. But that shows what was at Frederick County. And at one point, all of that area, all the way over to the left as you look at the map, all of that was at one point Frederick or the county of Orange. Okay, now that's another history lesson on the county of Orange. Probably no one's ever heard of that, but anyway. Okay, so that's the significance of that, and you probably can't see that if you blow it up. you can see that, all the counties there, Frederick and all the counties that separate. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Keep blowing. Yeah. So folks can see it. Yeah, that's good. You see Berkeley, Jefferson, and
that's now West Virginia.
Clark, Warren, Shenandoah.
You see Clark.
Yep.
You see Warren and of course Page down at the very, very bottom, and then Shenandoah. So that is the old map. I mean the original.
So Route 11 kind of went down the middle of that.
So Route 11. Okay, yes, that's exactly right. If you can imagine Route 11, and I'm going to teach you now to stop using Route 11.
Okay.
It is the Philadelphia Road. That is what it was known as. And of course, Route 11 is not Route 11. You get out of Virginia and these numbers change. But it was the Philadelphia Road.
Is that what it was called, Larry? So Philadelphia Road is Route 11, and you just said it changed numbers, right?
Well, in different states it changes.
That makes sense to my last question.
I don't know what the number is once you cross the West Virginia line. Is it Route 11 up there? I don't go up there much, but
that's why I asked you about Route 7, because we called it Route 7, but actually we all knew it as Philadelphia Road.
You mean Maryland Route 7?
Maryland Route 7 is Philadelphia Road.
Well, okay. It started at the Philadelphia port.
Okay.
When the ships came in and brought the people migrating here.
Right.
They came into Philadelphia and they disembarked. If you had money to pay and you had paid for your transportation, you disembarked and went your way.
Right.
If you did not, if you were broke, you couldn't leave until your bill had been paid.
Right.
And so they had corrals. I don't think they call them corrals. But if your family, if you could not have afforded your passage over, you would be corralled and put into a fenced-in area, and you would be there, and you would be available, you and your family, to become an indentured servant. In other words, the father, the mother, and the children. And the children would receive remuneration at a lower level, but each person would receive some remuneration, father being the most, mother being second, and the children even would receive something in order to pay off your passage.
Wow.
Now, if it was such that it was worked out that you had nothing and no hope, no skills.
Right.
In other words, but most of the people coming from the Rhineland were skilled people. They were very skilled, very intelligent people.
Right.
So most of those did not have the problem. They would be instantaneously picked up, their passage would be paid, and the agreement was normally a 7-year indenture. You were indentured for 7 years. If you were able to pay it off sooner, and the agreement, you got an agreement with the person that had purchased your skills or your labor. That's why the person was purchasing your labor, that you could be released from that maybe 5 years, or 6 years, not necessarily 7 years. But today, when I was in vocational training, the apprenticeships that you work in, even in some unions today, when you are employed in a union and you become an apprentice, guess how many years most of those apprenticeships are?
7 years.
7 years.
That sounds like Jacob and Leah and Rebecca. He had to work 7 years.
Right. Yeah, right, exactly. And so
Leah,
most of the things that we embrace
are
and use and don't want to talk about
is biblical.
Come from our spiritual, our religious base, our foundations, which are found in the Old Testament. And it goes back to Hammurabi. One of these great rulers who put posts, stone posts from from different places, in that land then, that he would put what the rules were, what the law was. But the first notice, the first history that we have of an apprenticeship is engraved on one of those stones. It was set in stone.
Set in stone.
You could become an apprentice and that you could work your way to become a tradesman and work your way out of indentured servitude. Okay. I'm sidetracked. Yeah, good grief. I've gone off into something else now.
Now, this has been great, but I mean, we learned about the 7 years,
Okay, how about this quest for freedom? Was that
Right, let me
that drove
it,
the?
Yeah, the quest for freedom is simply something that's very personal to me, being that my grandparents, 6 generations ago, Johann Jacob Haas and Anna Elizabeth Mueller were indentured servants who came to this country bringing their 2 sons with them. And this touches me that there is a wagon going down a road heading south, which I never fail to go down. And I go to Woodstock a lot because we use that sort of as a shopping center here, since we're closer in many ways to that, is that I never fail to think about going down the road. And some of the names of the side roads, Route 11's been improved, and there are some little side roads that were the original roads. And there's one at Muirtown. It goes down across the creek and by some old houses and then comes back into Route 11. And I'm sure if you go down, you'll notice it now. It's called Fehr, F-E-H-R. Okay. And, that's not necessarily the Führer as a ruler of a country such as Adolf Hitler was.
Right.
But this means to it's a side road. It is like a jockey's road.
Okay.
There was a little side road that you could go off on, and F-E-H-R is the name that you'll find. And probably the people that live down there don't even know what that means, but the sign is still there. Okay, so my ancestors, my great-grandparents, 6 generations ago, came to this country from the Rhineland.
Whoops. And
this is a map of the road that Charlie has put up that they would have traveled. They were able to begin their indentured servitude in 1753. They arrived on ship in Philadelphia. They worked for 10 years to accumulate enough money, and in 1764 they bought their freedom.
Right.
But during the process, they had invested in land. The person that held their contract to work, you were enabled, even as an indentured servant, to buy land.
Wow.
And put a contract on land. And then you would begin to live on that land. And that meant that the person that held your contract to work did not have to provide housing. You just lived on your own place and you did your work for that person that held your contract. And
Pretty
so
wild.
1753, they arrived from the Rhineland, and 10 years later, they had purchased in North Carolina 400 acres of land.
Wow.
And that day, the day that they transferred the title of their land to another indentured servant, that day they set out. We know exactly the day. I think it was like October the 14th, 1764. They set out to go south.
Okay.
And taking their children and all of their belongings. I have no idea if they had a wagon, but they had to transfer. They had to carry stuff down somehow. So perhaps they had pack mules. That is unclear in anything that I have read. Okay, so this is that slide, and Charlie, just take us on. We're back to the map, and this is a picture of a portion of the road that's still in existence. And I don't know who keeps the trees out of it, but what you see on the ground is pine straw.
Pine needles.
So this picture obviously is taken further south than where we are, where the pine forests begin. But there are portions of the road that still exist. Okay,
Pretty
next
cool.
slide. I just put this up for sentimental reasons and educational too. I hope
The
it's
Rhineland?
But this is the Palatine. That was a state where my family lived. It was next door to Hesse, okay?
Mhm.
We all know from our history, if you read any Revolutionary War history, that the English hired Hessian young men to come and fight. And this Hesse, if you look at the map, is immediately under the word G, where you see Germany. That's Hesse. It was extreme. They all were very poor because of the 30 Years' War. I did not know the devastation of the 30 Years' War, but the 30 Years' War nearly wiped out the entire population of this area.
Wow.
It was awful. The war ended, things began to look better, but there was still starvation and there was disease. We think of smallpox first.
Right.
There was the plague. There was it was awful. It was awful that people died by the thousands. And an example, Charlie, go ahead and bring up the slide with the young. Yeah, thank you. This is what smallpox looks like.
Wow.
This is what it looks like. And people died. They died by the thousands. My grandparents, I'll call my grandparents. Sandra corrected me this morning. Said, "They're not your grandparents." I said, "Well, they are if you go far enough back." She says, "Well, make that clear that they weren't here last generation. They were here. They were here 6 generations ago." But they lost all of their children that they had, but 2 boys. They had 6. 3 girls died from smallpox, and 1 of their boys, and 2 boys were left. And when they decided to come to this country, they loaded up whatever they could bring, and their 2 sons and themselves, and they made it here. And they arrived in October, get this, October of 1773. And they were there for how many years? 10 years. And they had lost these 3 girls and a boy to smallpox. And it's interesting that each time a girl died, the next girl that was born was given the same name. That was a tradition in the families there, that you would continue to use the same name. And the name was the name of Anna Elizabeth. That was my grandmother's name. She would name each of the girls, or they would name them after her. 3 died. When they arrived in this country and they had a girl that was born, they did not continue to try to use that name. They named the girl that was born here Anna Marie. They were very religious people. And my cousin, who put together a book that it's so big I can hardly hold it in my lap, she traveled to the Palatine. And she was there, and she worshiped in the church of my grandparents, my 6 times great grandparents. And she tells the story of when the war came. It changed hands. First, the English had the land. They left, and the Spanish held the land. They left. Then the French came, and they held the land. And so each time that the country came, that changed. It was when the British were there, the families worshipped as Anglicans. When the Spanish came, they had to worship how Charles II or III told them to worship. Then the Spanish left, and then the French came, and of course everything would change. Everything. The Spanish did not want the people there reading the Bible.
Dana, can you stop sharing that?
The Bible was outlawed by the Spanish, and they would have to hide the Bible. They would have to bury their utensils, such as the cup, the things that you have communion. They would bury it in the graveyard. And when that, maybe a generation later, when that country left, and it was safe, they would go out and dig up the communion set and begin communion again.
Wow.
And then the next government would change. If it was outlawed, they'd have to go bury their Bibles, bury their communion things. But anyway, I don't know what to say except this is one of the reasons that they were fleeing where they were. And in the case of my parents, of Johann and Elizabeth, their entire church left and bought passage. There were 26 families that left there in about 1772.
Wow.
And it took them 1 year
to get here,
to travel from what you might say the Rhineland, going first to Belgium, the Netherlands, in each case waiting for passage, then going to southern England, waiting for passage, and then leaving England and arrive at Philadelphia, taking them about a year. I don't know how they lived. I don't know how they had money. That is unclear, but they made it. They did it. Their entire church.
And people have no idea, just listening to you, Larry, of how they went from here to here to here to here on faith with very little to get here. And I just wanted to point out to everybody, we have so much, we take everything for granted. Everything that we have, we take for granted.
Well, you're exactly right, and the suffering and here's now. I know our hour. I don't know how long we've been going on, but I'll keep going until Charles rings the bell and says, "Shut her down." But there are things that are very interesting when they worked, they practiced, they had skills, they had a trade. He who hath a trade hath an estate. Who said that? Benjamin Franklin. He who hath trade hath an estate. These people were hard workers.
Absolutely.
They were farmers.
Which choice do you have?
They made things successful. And when they began to move south, who was one of the biggest groups that moved here was the Amish. They were the same people as my grandparents, but my grandparents were Lutheran. They were not the Orthodox, or should we say Christian, and that's what the Amish were. They were very Orthodox. They had rules that they imposed. It's sort of like the primitive Baptists in the English church, okay? So the Amish were of this same lineage. As a matter of fact, I was telling a family member, I said, well, when you go up to Philadelphia and go into the Amish country, old Ohio, I said, shake the hand of probably if some of your relatives are there. And of course they open their eyes up and say, oh, Dad, you're kidding. You're kidding. No. Okay.
I know that area pretty well.
Yes. So now, Charles, if you need to bring me back.
Well, what I'd like to do is to find out a little bit more about why people were using Route 11, the Great Highway, the Great American Highway, whatever it is that we best call it, and what life was like along that road while the people were migrating for one reason or another. It seemed to that I've heard that at times it's really crowded. There's a nose to tail oxen going down, like the picture depicted, almost a traffic jam on Route 11.
Well, exactly. It was one of the most used roads.
Still is.
In America. As a matter of fact, an author discovered me at Shenandoah Museum. I was up there to do a program for some kids, and James Dodson, not the religious leader James Dobson who passed away, but James Dodson.
Focus on the family.
A younger man wrote this book, and it took him 8 years. And he started in Philadelphia, and he traveled this great Philadelphia road from beginning to end. And in the book here, he stops along the way, and it's different. He talks to people. He finds people. Well, he found me. And being Winchester is he considered it sort of the center or the focal point, the target, if you put it on a calendar or put it on a map. And there I was. So I'm in the middle of the book. Okay. So he goes on south. Yeah, the end of the book is South Carolina.
You got your own chapter.
Yeah. So it's a good book. It's a good book. But now the best book, find my glasses here. The best book, and I have others at the museum down in just south of Woodstock. What's the name of that little town down there that's south of Woodstock?
Luray?
No, too far.
Middletown.
No, it's escaping me. They got a great museum down there, and Turner Ashby had a big battle down there. But anyway,
Um,
so but this book here, you can't see it, but I'll read it. The title, The Great Wagon Road. Now, this book it says here, refers to the road as the road that made America, which is true. This book was commissioned by a publishing company, and at one point it was 4 books. It was a book to promote travel and tourism to the valley.
Wow.
And so
We could use that now.
this writer is Park Rouse, or Rouse, Rouse. This is by far the most interesting book, and got most of the factual information that people like myself like to read, exciting stuff. For example, when you were traveling down that road, where did you stop? Where did you stop to eat? What did you eat? How much did it cost to eat? I commission each of you as students.
Mhm.
All right. Now, we do not have the space or the time to talk about this next subject, but where and how did someone plan that we would have Stevenson just north of Winchester? Okay. A lot of these places did not exist. Winchester existed, and that was what it was called because it was an older city. Just north of Winchester, a place called Stevenson. Well, a man named Stevenson lived there, farmed there, and had a well, and he sold water or whatever to people traveling down the road. Now, now let's go back up to the West Virginia border. Okay. Have you ever heard of Tabler Station?
No.
Never heard of it? Well, there's a crossroads there named Tabler Station, and there is water there. South of there is Inwood. We all know where Inwood is, don't we?
Right, just across the border.
I've been up there to buy baby fish to put them up Inwood. 7 miles south of that is Bunker Hill, or 5 miles, 5 to 7 miles. 5 to 7 miles south of Bunker Hill is Clearbrook. 5 or 6 miles south of Clearbrook is Stevenson. 5 or 6 miles south of that is Winchester. And then we come to Winchester. Now, I'm trying to get you to relate, and this becomes personal for each of you that are watching this. If you travel this road, 7 miles south of Winchester is Stevens City, or the original name was Newtown. And then 5 or 6 miles south of that is Middletown. And the inn there that they say was built in 1797 is built around a well that I think probably was there long before the inn was built. But Middletown had water, and it had people it would have places to sleep or places to buy food. Then just south of Middletown, another 5 miles, is Strasburg. Right. And then you come to, keep in mind, all of these are about 5 miles apart.
Right.
Tom's Brook, Murraytown, Woodstock. Woodstock was originally not Woodstock. Wood was named after the colonel that wrote a letter and says, we need a German preacher in Muellertown because no one in the valley speaks English, and we want them to continue to be civilized. So we want a German preacher to come to Woodstock. Thus, and next story maybe will be Muhlenberg. Then Peter Muhlenberg shows up, 25-year-old, I think it's 25.
We need to do Muhlenberg next.
Yeah, we'll do Muhlenberg. So he shows up at Muellertown. But Colonel Wood, his daddy had founded Winchester, decided that Muhlenberg was too German. So we would name it after his family, Wood. Okay? No one knows that except perhaps me. Okay? So, but that's the way it is.
There's going to be a lot of people that know that after this.
Okay, so
fascinating.
We'll right
I love this.
Then you got Woodstock. Then you got Muhlenberg or Woodstock, Edinburgh. Okay, Edinburgh.
You can see
and
where
then
he's going
after
down.
that, you got Mount Jackson. But there was no Mount Jackson. Mount Jackson didn't become Mount Jackson until President Jackson was president. What was it before that? It was Mount Pleasant, and it had a creek called what? Mill Creek. Okay, which some of these things are still there. And then you come down to Newmarket. Then you have south of Newmarket, Malsey, which they just in the last 10 years tore down the old end across 81 there. And then you come to south on Malsey, and there may be a stream that's between Malsey, but the next one that I have, because my son lived there for 15 years, was Lacey Springs. Then you have Melrose coming into Harrisonburg. Then you have Harrisonburg proper, but there was no Harrisonburg until 1779. What was it called before then? It was named after where you got your water from. Okay? What was it? Big Spring.
So Harrisonburg was Big Springs.
It was Big Spring.
So
then it was later known, as they became more civilized, Rocktown Village.
So the significance of the 5 to 7 miles where each of these things
I was going to ask that.
Did that have to do with the length of time, the distance between meals, or
that was about the length of time that your ox team could pull.
Last.
But after about 5 to 7 miles, you got to rest your ox and spend the night.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. Every 7 miles. And now, how fast did the oxen go? If the road was clear, it was not muddy, it was not obstructed, there was no storms, there were no trees. And keep in mind, all of this was wooded. All that land has been opened up since we came here to farm it and set up plantations.
We don't even think about that.
No, the trees came right
in a traffic jam.
And it was when it started, like I said earlier, it was a little path.
Right.
Maybe 3 feet wide, and then it got a little bit wider. Then the oxen came, and then the Conestoga wagon came, which was how wide was was a wagon 6 feet wide? I believe about 6 feet wide and 26 feet long.
Yeah,
had big wheels with 4-inch track. And I've got the directions on how a blacksmith built those wheels. They were marvels. And we don't teach that. You could teach how a wheel was built for a Conestoga wagon in something that I used to call, when I was in high school and taught high school, industrial arts. I don't even think they have it now. Do they teach industrial manual arts?
We're going to work on that.
Anyway, they don't do it. Well, anyway, here's about 20 villages, 5 to 7 miles apart, and that was about the time that an ox would have to take a rest. Now, on a good day, fair weather, no mud, an ox might be able to pull a wagon at about 2 miles an hour, but you're not going to get much pulling. You're not going to get much pulling beyond that. So you see how far. And you were lucky if you could travel 7 miles a day, and you were really lucky if you could get 10 miles a day. But I bet you they didn't risk it. That they'd come to a place now.
That's right.
Now here is the here.
You're really upsetting, Larry. You're really upsetting people today that get stuck in a traffic jam and are only moving 10 miles an hour, and it takes them an hour to go. 20 miles.
Well, going 2 miles an hour with an ox.
Right.
Now Charles says something, and there are notes from people, and one. And these wagons, one person writes in their diary over here in Middletown that they sit on their front porch. It was the entertainment. People traveling by, they brought news, they brought things from other places, and news was important. Is that this lady said there was about 100 wagons that today have passed my house. Wow. And the entertainment was sit on your porch and watch people pass by and wave at them, probably go out and talk to them. You see, get the news, look at the new things they were bringing. Some of the wagons, some of the people with the Conestoga wagons were tradesmen, and they would have things that they had made out of iron traveling on the Conestoga wagon, and the people would come out, and the wagon would stop, and they would buy things off the wagon. See, it may have been clothing that was being made by mom who traveled on the wagon. So it was the news of what was going on. So we were after about 1760.
Mm-hmm.
It was highly traveled. Now, why at that time? Because the king had written an agreement, a treaty with the Indians, that they could not come beyond the Allegheny Mountains.
Okay.
It was at one point the Blue Ridge, but no, the treaty was about 1740. And so they said, you can't come beyond. And then, of course, that didn't work. So about 1750, they had another agreement. The Indians, the Shawnees were bloody. I don't care. I know y'all live up there in your Shawnee land. The Shawnees were some of the most bloody, gosh awful people. Why? Because they didn't necessarily have their tribe location up where you guys live.
Right.
But what they did have was their happy hunting ground. It was their hunting ground. And so the whites came in
and messed it up.
And they wanted to clear them out. So there was slaughter. But the agreement was, okay, we'll leave you alone. Whites, we'll leave you Indians alone. You leave us alone. But we will not allow our settlers to go beyond the Allegheny Mountains.
West of the Allegheny Mountains.
Now,
right.
The king welcomed the settlers coming in who were from Germany and other places, because if it was settled by these Germans, and then not long after that, the Scotch-Irish, and that's another story we'll get into, but at some point, but it was a barrier against the Indians coming over to kill the English, which would live down in the coastal plains. So these, my ancestors, for example, they were like, what would you call that, Charles? Bait?
Yeah.
Huh?
They bait.
So you had all of these strange people that didn't speak English, who spoke German. You couldn't even communicate with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to let them have all of that land. When they get into Winchester and they get into across the Potomac, they're going to have anything they want if they will settle that land. But because what that does is it creates a defense for the English,
a barrier
down east. So and so now, how did we got to have this? How did it come that the Rhineland began to send, or all of not people sent travel here? I'm going to tell you this: William Penn received a grant.
Okay.
And it was called Pennsylvania, a great land grant. He was a Quaker. And so he wanted that land settled. He wanted to make some money. Everybody wants to make money, right?
Of course.
Well, how am I going to do it? Well, I can't do it. Don't have anybody there. People don't have any money to buy it. But if they come and they work, they will produce goods that they'll sell, and we'll tax whatever they're producing, you see? So it's all about money, right? All about money. That's where it comes. So William Penn was traveling into Bavaria.
Okay.
Bavaria is a beautiful country. I don't know why he decided to go down there, but he did. So he comes up from Bavaria, where my people were. My people were up northern part of Bavaria, into the Rhineland, to a place called Palatine, next to Hesse. And he saw starvation. He saw disease. Right. He said it was awful. He said, this is just... And so he comes back and he talks to the king. And he tells the king, says, we can be compassionate, because we Quakers are very compassionate. We can be compassionate, but we can make some money. So let's open the grant up that you gave me, called Pennsylvania, and we'll open it up to receive refugees from Palatine or from Hesse. And so thus it started.
So then let me ask you a question, Larry. So you're saying, like you
Pardon?
said, you said this in the middle of this. You said that people would come to the ports and they'd come into Pennsylvania, what is now Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And that's where they would be the indentured servants for 7 years. And he built out from there.
Yes.
I'm just taking off from what you just said. They came over here, they landed there, and now you've got your building using these indentured servants with all these people with skills.
Right. Right.
Okay, and then you're taking that, down Route 11, and then you've got all of these people getting the news on Route 11, stopping 5 to 7 miles, trading information, trading their wares, keeping the Indians over here, making treaties back and forth. This is really neat when you put it together like that. But the explanation that you put with everything has been excellent.
Well, you have really underscored and wrapped this thing up, and there is just.
I was just asking. That's what I'm hearing with incredible detail.
Well, but this is what settled this country. And that road, and of course, as settlers came like Daniel Boone,
right?
Now, why did the Germans stop around quote Woodstock? Because that was the land that was not taken. You see,
and they needed German people.
They just moved out. The land was available to be settled, and there was like 4 or 5 steps that you took. And if I was teaching a class in real estate law and history, which you don't get, I took real estate classes many years ago.
We need to do that, Charlie.
But real estate classes usually are how to do a contract and how to go out and market and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But this is the story of how real estate was settled. And so what happened? You'd get that, and you'd come south. Right. You'd be a part of a wagon train. You didn't travel alone. The whole congregation of Anna's and Jacob's church came. They came together, and so they would come, and so they would go down. And is this land taken? No, this land's not taken. Well, we're going to move here. And here's the thing: they lived together.
Right.
Now, why did they live together? Why did they move into the same area?
If I may, Larry,
pardon?
If I may ask that we use that as a tease for the next episode.
Okay.
Because our time is up.
I love it.
So what I'd like you to do is maybe give us your summary thoughts on the Route 11 program, and then we can say a prayer and move on.
And Larry, we would be honored for you also, after you wrap it up, for you to do the prayer.
Okay, so will we do a second Valley Road program next time?
You can.
Yeah.
I mean, it should follow if people are viewing something. We're ending up now because we've been in business now for over an hour.
Yes.
So
but there's so much more to this for all of us that live here.
Like I said in the beginning, we just opened the window a little bit to see a little part of this story.
Amen to that, and
it's incredible.
The history of the people that came here is phenomenal. And why? We'll end with this. Why are the farms and farmers so prosperous in Rockingham County, Shenandoah County, and it used to be Warren County until things began to change here? But they're still farming. Rockingham, Augusta County. Why is Augusta County known as the Scotch-Irish County? There's another history here, on that one. They were fleeing persecution by the English. We'll end with that. Look forward to talking to folks next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
So if you would do us the honor of giving us a benediction for this program, we'd greatly appreciate it.
I want to thank everybody for watching. Please share this and go back to the other 9 episodes. They all line up, and you're learning your American history from somebody he's taken us all the way back to the Rhineland and how they got here and how we did this and real estate. This is our history, folks. Let's never lose it. And for that, Larry, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Amen to that. Lord, we lift up to you the things that we have acquired, the successes in this country, our education, the property. And we know that these things have been built upon the work that our forefathers developed and suffered for and died for through war, through diseases, and most importantly, hard work and their belief and their faith the faith of Jesus Christ. In Christ's name, we give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to take a look at our Liberty Man series. Most of all, we want to thank Charlie, who really helps put all this stuff together with Larry. They put the whole program together. I just sit here and kind of moderate, but I want to thank everybody for taking a look at this. Make sure that you hit that like button. Share this with everybody so that we can get it out there. And if you have a school that's interested in what's going on, we'd like to talk to those superintendents as well, because we want our history to live on. And with that, as Charlie and I say at every one of these episodes, we want to thank everybody and say this one
is in the
book. Have a very blessed day, everybody, and thanks for joining us
bless.
on Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries.